Let me tell you something before we go any further. Most people spend their entire lives chasing what they want and they never get it. Not because they didn't work hard, not because they didn't want it badly enough, but because nobody ever sat them down and told them the truth about how getting everything you want in life actually works. Tonight, that changes. What I'm about to share with you isn't theory. It isn't something I read in a book and repeated back to you dressed up in fancy language. This is life distilled down to its essential parts, the parts that actually move the needle. And here's why you need to stay with me for the next few minutes, everything you want. The income, the relationships, the health, the peace of mind, the legacy, all of it is downstream from a handful of decisions and disciplines that most people never learn or learn too late. I'm going to give you 6 of them tonight, miss even one, and you'll spend years working hard in the wrong direction. Get all 6, and I promise you, life will start opening doors you didn't even know existed. So don't leave early. Don't check out halfway through. Because what I say in the next few minutes might be the difference between the life you're settling for and the life you were actually capable of living. Let's start here with a question. Not what do you want, but who do you need to become to get it? Most people have that backwards. They chase the goal and hope they'll grow into the person who deserves it along the way. But life doesn't work by hope, it works by cause and effect. If you want more, you don't ask life to change. You ask yourself to change. You don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. So the first step to getting everything you want is to stop focusing on the fruit and start focusing on the root. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, your bank account, or your business. Because everything else you're chasing is simply a reflection of the person you've become. Second, you must learn to be dissatisfied with your reasons, not your results. When people fail to get what they want, they usually blame the economy, the timing, the boss, the breaks they didn't get. But here's the truth. The reasons come first, the answers come second. If your reasons for wanting something aren't strong enough, no strategy in the world will save you. Give a person a strong enough reason and they'll figure out how. So before you worry about the how of getting what you want, get brutally honest about your why. Make it so strong, so personal, so undeniable that quitting is no longer an option you allow yourself to consider. Third, and this is where most people lose the whole game, you have to master the discipline of daily, unglamorous effort. Nobody gets everything they want from one big decision made on one big day. They get it from a series of small, seemingly insignificant disciplines repeated consistently over time that eventually compound into something extraordinary. Success is not to be pursued in giant leaps. It's to be pursued in inches every single day for years. What you do today may not blow the roof off your life, but what you do every day, that will change everything. Fourth, you must become a serious student, not a casual observer of your own life. Read the books, attend the seminars, study the people who have what you want, not with envy, but with curiosity. Ask, what do they know that I don't? What are they doing that I'm not? Formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. And more importantly, it will make you the kind of person capable of holding on to everything you gain. Growth is not automatic. It's a decision. Make it daily. Fifth, surround yourself carefully because you become an average of the people you spend the most time with. If you want to fly with the eagles, you cannot continue to scratch with the turkeys. This isn't about abandoning people. It's about being intentional. Seek out those who challenge you, who expect more of you, who are already living pieces of the life you're chasing. Their standards will become your standards, whether you notice it happening or not. Choose your influences the way you choose your investments, deliberately and with an eye on the long-term return. And sixth, you must learn to give before you receive, to serve before you're served. This is the part people skip because it sounds soft, but it's the most practical principle of all. Life rewards contribution. The marketplace pays you in proportion to the value you bring to it, not the hours you put in. So if you want more from life, start asking a different question. Not, what can I get? But what can I become that allows me to give more? Do more than you're paid for, and eventually you'll be paid for more than you do. That's not sentiment. That's how the whole system actually works. So there they are. 6 disciplines, not 6 secrets, because there is no secret. Work on yourself before you work on your goals. Strengthen your reasons before you search for methods. Repeat small disciplines daily until they compound. Study relentlessly. Choose your circle deliberately. And give more than you take. Do these 6 things not for a week, not for a month, but for years. And I promise you, life will hand you more than you ever thought to ask for. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it before you answer. When was the last time you invested in yourself, the way you invest in your job, your bills, your obligations to everyone else? Most people can answer instantly when you ask what they want out of life. More money, a better relationship, a healthier body, more freedom. But ask them who they need to become to get those things, and you'll get silence. That silence is the whole problem. Because life doesn't hand out rewards based on what you want. Life hands out rewards based on what you've become. Wishing doesn't change your world. Wishing changes you, and then you change your world, but only if you let it. Here's what I mean by that. 2 people can want the exact same thing, the same income, the same business, the same marriage, and one gets it while the other spends a lifetime chasing it and never arrives. What's the difference? It's rarely opportunity. Opportunity is fairly evenly distributed if you look hard enough. The difference is who each person became on the way there. One person developed the discipline, the skill, the character, the emotional strength to hold on to what they were chasing once they got close to it. The other person stayed the same. Same habits, same thinking, same excuses, and hoped the goal would somehow meet them halfway. It never does. The goal doesn't come down to your level. You have to rise to meet it. This is why I tell people, don't join an easy life wishing it were less difficult. Join a better program of self-improvement, wishing you were better. Don't wish for fewer problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were stronger. Because the problems you have right now, the ones frustrating you, the ones keeping you up at night, those exact same problems faced by a stronger, wiser, more disciplined version of you wouldn't even register as problems. They'd be Tuesday. That's the power of personal development. It doesn't just get you to the goal. It changes your relationship with everything standing between you and the goal. Now, here's the part people miss. Working on yourself isn't a phase you complete before you go after what you want. It's not something you finish in a year and then move on from. It is the ongoing task for as long as you're breathing. The book you read, the skill you sharpen, the habit you correct, the weakness you finally address, that's not preparation for the real work. That is the real work. Everything else, the income, the relationships, the results, those are just the visible evidence of an invisible process happening inside you. So before you write another goal on paper, before you make another 5-year plan, ask yourself honestly, am I becoming someone capable of holding what I'm asking for? Because life has a strange sense of humor. It will occasionally hand people things they haven't grown into yet, and watch what happens. The money disappears, the relationship falls apart, the opportunity gets squandered, not because they didn't want it enough, but because they were still the person who couldn't keep it. Don't let that be your story. Build the person first. Everything else follows. I want you to think about every time you set a goal and quit before you reached it. Not because you couldn't figure out the steps. The steps are usually available to anyone willing to look. You quit because somewhere along the way, the discomfort of the process outweighed the reason you started. And that's not a character flaw. That's simple math. Weak reasons will always be defeated by real difficulty. Strong reasons will always find a way through it. So before you spend one more hour searching for the perfect strategy, the perfect plan, the perfect method, stop and go to work on the one thing that actually determines whether you finish: your reasons. Here's what most people get backwards. They think the order is find the method, follow the method, get the result, and somewhere in there motivation will just show up and carry them through. But that's not how it works. Motivation isn't something you find. It's something you manufacture deliberately by getting so clear and so honest about your reasons that quitting becomes more painful than continuing. Give a person a strong enough reason, and they will move mountains with nothing but a shovel and stubbornness. Give a person a weak reason, hand them the finest method ever devised, and they'll still find a way to abandon it by February. This is why I always say, reasons come first, answers come second. Life doesn't ask you how. Life asks you why, and if your why is strong enough, the how starts revealing itself. Because a person with a burning enough reason will find the method, invent the method, or beg, borrow, and learn the method out of sheer necessity. But a person going through the motions with no real reason behind them will collect methods the way some people collect books they never read. Impressive on the shelf, useless in practice. So how do you strengthen a reason? You make it personal. Vague goals produce vague effort. I want to be successful will not get you out of bed at 5 in the morning when it's cold and the blankets are warm. But I want to build something my children can be proud of. Or I refuse to be 60 years old explaining why I never tried. Or I'm done watching everyone else live the life I was capable of. That will get you up. That will keep you working when the excitement wears off, which it always does, usually within the first few weeks. Excitement is not a strategy. It's a spark. Your reasons are the fuel that has to keep burning long after the spark is gone. And here's something important. Don't be ashamed if your reasons are emotional. They're supposed to be. Logic makes you think. Emotion makes you act. The most successful people I've studied weren't necessarily the most talented or the most educated. They were the ones who had a reason so strong it embarrassed their doubts into silence. So before you chase another technique, another system, another shortcut, sit down and interrogate your own why. Make it specific, make it personal, make it non-negotiable. Because once your reasons are strong enough, you won't need someone else to hand you discipline. You'll manufacture it yourself every single morning without fail. I want you to picture two farmers standing at the edge of their fields on the very same day. Same soil, same weather, same seed available to both of them. One farmer gets up early, tends his field a little every single day, pulls the weeds before they take over, waters consistently, checks on things even when nothing seems to be happening. The other farmer waits. He tells himself he'll get serious next week, next month, when he feels more motivated, when conditions are just right. Now fast forward one season. One farmer has a harvest, the other has excuses, and a field full of weeds he now has to deal with on top of everything else. Same start. Completely different ending. That right there is the entire story of why some people get everything they want out of life and others spend their whole life wanting. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes. They think success comes from the big dramatic moment, the breakthrough, the lucky break, the one bold decision that changes everything overnight. It doesn't work that way. And if you're waiting for that moment, you'll wait your whole life. Success is not to be pursued in giant leaps. It is to be pursued in inches. Small, unglamorous, almost boring disciplines repeated so consistently that they eventually compound into something that looks from the outside like an overnight transformation. It was never overnight. It was daily. This is why what you do today rarely feels significant. One workout won't transform your body. One good conversation won't save a relationship. One sale won't build a business. One chapter won't make you educated. On any given day, the discipline looks almost pointless. That's exactly why most people abandon it. They're measuring the wrong thing. They're looking for today's results instead of understanding that today's actions are simply deposits into an account that pays out later with interest if, and only if, you keep making deposits. Here's the discipline that separates the people who get what they want from the people who merely wish for it. Doing the necessary things whether you feel like it or not. Motivation is unreliable. It shows up when it wants to and disappears exactly when you need it most. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It simply asks, did you do what you said you'd do? And the people who win in life, in business, in health, in relationships, they aren't the ones who never lose motivation. They're the ones who built a system strong enough that motivation became optional. So here's what I want you to do. Stop asking, what's the one big thing I need to do to change my life? There isn't one. Start asking, what's the small thing I can do today and again tomorrow and again the day after that without fail? Read a little every day, save a little every day, improve a little every day. It will feel like nothing is happening for a while. That's the test. That's where most people quit, right before the compounding starts to show. But keep going because discipline's payoff is never proportional to a single day's effort. It's proportional to the sum of every day you didn't quit. Do this long enough, and one day you'll look back and it will look like your life changed overnight. It didn't. It changed daily. You just weren't watching closely enough to notice until now. Let me tell you something that took me years to understand. And once I understood it, everything changed. Your income, your relationships, your health, your entire life. They will only grow to the extent that you do. Not your job title, not your circumstances, not the economy, you. If you want more out of life, the very first place to look is not out there at the opportunities. It's in here at your own level of growth. Because here's a hard truth nobody wants to hear. If you were somehow given everything you're asking for right now, today, most people wouldn't have the skill, the wisdom, or the character to keep it. Life is not withholding your goals from you out of cruelty. Sometimes it's simply waiting for you to become someone who can carry them. This is why I say formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. School teaches you enough to get by. It hands you a foundation and sends you out the door. But nobody ever told you that the real education, the one that actually determines the shape of your life, begins the day you leave the classroom and continues for as long as you're breathing. The people who get everything they want out of life are not necessarily the most naturally gifted. They are the ones who never stop being students. They read when others are watching television. They listen to something that sharpens them while others listen to noise. They ask questions others are too proud or too comfortable to ask. Here's what relentless study actually looks like in practice, because it's not complicated, it's just consistent. It's a book a month when everyone around you hasn't finished one since school. It's turning your commute into a classroom instead of dead time. It's sitting across from someone who has what you want and asking with real humility, "What do you know that I don't?" It's taking notes at a seminar instead of just attending it. It's treating every setback, every mistake, every failure not as evidence you should quit, but as a tuition payment for a lesson you needed. The person who's paying attention gets the lesson for free, eventually. The person who isn't pays for it twice. And here's the part people resist the most. Studying yourself is just as important as studying the world around you. Growth requires brutal honesty. You have to be willing to sit with your own weaknesses long enough to actually address them, instead of decorating them with excuses. What are you tolerating that you shouldn't be? What skill are you avoiding because it's uncomfortable to be a beginner again? What habit is quietly costing you the very thing you say you want? These are not comfortable questions. But comfort and growth have never lived in the same house, so make this a daily assignment, not an occasional inspiration. Growth is not automatic just because you got older. Time will take something from you whether you learn or not. It will take your years either way. The only question is whether you're trading those years for wisdom or simply letting them pass. Decide, starting today, that you will not just live your life, you will study it. Study your successes to understand what to repeat. Study your failures to understand what to correct. Study the people ahead of you to understand what's possible. Do that consistently for years, and you won't just get what you want out of life. You'll become someone life can't help but reward. I want you to do something uncomfortable right now. Think of the 5 people you spend the most time around. Not the people you admire from a distance, not the people you follow online, but the actual 5 people whose voices you hear most often, whose opinions shape your decisions, whose habits you absorb without even realizing it. Now ask yourself honestly, if I became exactly like the average of those 5 people, would I be satisfied with my life? For some of you, the answer is yes, and that's a wonderful thing. Protect that circle. But for many of you, the honest answer is no. And if that's the case, you don't have a motivation problem, you don't have a discipline problem, you have an association problem, and it's quietly determining the ceiling of your entire life. Here's why this matters more than almost anything else we've talked about. You don't rise or fall to the level of your own goals nearly as much as you rise or fall to the level of your environment. Standards are contagious, but so is mediocrity. If you spend your days around people who complain about circumstances instead of changing them, who mock ambition instead of chasing it, who settle and call it wisdom, you will absorb that slowly without a single dramatic moment marking the decline. Nobody wakes up one day and decides to give up on their potential. It happens gradually, through years of small compromises, agreements, and silences around people who never expected more from them. Now flip that around. If you want to fly with the eagles, you cannot continue to scratch with the turkeys. This isn't about looking down on anyone. It's about being honest regarding who fuels your growth and who quietly drains it. Eagles don't mock you for having a big vision. They don't roll their eyes when you talk about your goals. They challenge you. They hold you to a standard. They expect more from you than you sometimes expect from yourself. And being around people like that is uncomfortable in the best possible way. Growth rarely feels comfortable. If everyone around you agrees with everything you do and never asks anything more of you, that comfort might be costing you your future. This doesn't mean abandoning people carelessly, and it doesn't mean waiting for perfect people who don't exist. Everyone you know is a mixture of things worth learning from and things worth leaving behind. What it means is becoming intentional. Seek out relationships the way you'd approach any serious investment, deliberately, with attention to long-term return, not just short-term comfort. Find people who are a few steps ahead of where you want to be and get close enough to study how they think, not just what they've achieved. Their standards will start to feel normal to you. Their discipline will start to feel expected of you. That's not manipulation. That's the quiet architecture of growth. And here's the part people forget. You're not just choosing who influences you, you are also someone's influence. Someone in your life is absorbing your standards, your excuses, your discipline or lack of it right now, whether you intended that or not. So the question isn't only who am I becoming an average of, it's also what average am I contributing to someone else's life? Choose your circle with intention. And just as importantly, become the kind of person worth choosing. Do that, and you won't just find better company. You'll build a life where excellence is simply what's normal around you. Let me tell you something that sounds backwards to almost everyone the first time they hear it. The fastest way to get more out of life is to stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I give? I know how that lands on first hearing. It sounds like something you say at a charity dinner, not a practical strategy for building the life you want. But I want you to understand this isn't sentiment. This is one of the most reliable, practical, almost mechanical principles governing how reward actually flows in this life. The marketplace, your relationships, your health, your reputation, all of it pays you in proportion to the value you put in, not the hours you logged or the effort you feel you deserve credit for. Here's what most people get wrong. They believe the order is get paid, get appreciated, get recognized, and then once they've received enough, they'll consider giving more. But that's exactly backwards, and it's why so many people feel stuck, underpaid, underappreciated, and resentful. Life doesn't reward the request, it rewards the contribution. You don't get promoted because you asked nicely or waited your turn. You get promoted because you became the kind of person whose absence would actually be felt. You don't build a thriving business by figuring out how to extract more from customers. You build it by relentlessly asking how to give them more than they expected, more than they paid for, more than seems immediately profitable. This is why I say do more than you're paid for, and eventually you'll be paid for more than you do. That's not a slogan, that's cause and effect. The person who only ever does exactly what's required, exactly what's expected, exactly what keeps them safe from criticism, that person has quietly capped their own future without realizing it. But the person who consistently gives more value than the exchange requires becomes disproportionately valuable over time because scarcity always gets noticed. Excellence and generosity are rare. When you combine them consistently, you become someone people compete to reward rather than someone who has to compete to be noticed. But here's the deeper reason this matters. Beyond strategy, beyond income, beyond career. Giving changes you. When your daily question becomes, how can I add value here? Your focus shifts away from lack and toward contribution. And that shift alone will change how you show up in every room you enter. Bitterness, comparison, resentment, those emotions cannot survive in a person who is consistently focused on what they can offer rather than what they're owed. You cannot simultaneously be a generous contributor and a person consumed by what life hasn't given you yet. The two are incompatible. So giving isn't just good for the people receiving it. It's the fastest way to build the kind of character that can actually hold on to everything else we've talked about tonight. So here's your assignment. Stop waiting to feel appreciated before you contribute more. Stop measuring your effort against exactly what you're currently being paid or thanked for. Start asking, in your work, in your relationships, in your community, what can I bring here that nobody's expecting? Serve first. Add value first. Give first, without a calculator running in the back of your mind tallying whether it's been reciprocated yet. Do this consistently, for years, not days, and you will find that life has a way of paying back generosity with interest, often through doors you never even knocked on. That's not luck. That's the law working exactly the way it always has. So let's bring this all together, because I don't want you to leave here tonight with 6 good ideas floating around in your head with nowhere to land. I want you to leave here with a decision. Everything we've talked about tonight, working on yourself before you work on your goals, strengthening your reasons before you chase methods, repeating small disciplines until they compound, studying relentlessly, choosing your circle with intention, giving before you receive. None of it is complicated. You didn't need me to hand you a secret tonight because there isn't one. What you needed was a reminder of what you already knew somewhere inside you, but had let yourself forget under the weight of busyness, comfort, and time passing quietly while you waited for the right moment to begin. Here's what I want you to understand as you walk out of here. Nothing changes until you change. Not your income, not your relationships, not your health, not your future. None of it moves an inch until you do. And you don't need a new set of circumstances to start. You don't need permission, and you don't need it to be January 1st. You need a decision made today, followed by a small action taken today, repeated tomorrow, and the day after that, until one day, months or years from now, you look back and realize the life you're living now was built in exactly the same quiet, unremarkable days you're living through right now. The only difference between the life you have and the life you want is the sum of decisions you haven't made yet. So I'll leave you with this. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Don't wait for motivation to visit you. Build reasons strong enough to summon it yourself. Don't chase the big leap. Trust the small, daily inch, because that's where all lasting change actually happens, whether anyone's watching or not. Study like your future depends on it, because it does. Choose the people around you like your life depends on it, because it does. And give more than you take, because that, more than anything else, is the surest way to build a life that keeps expanding instead of one that quietly runs out. You have everything you need to begin. Not everything you need to finish. Nobody has that on day one, but everything you need to begin. So begin. Start today. Start small, but start. Because a year from now, you'll wish you had started today. And this, right here, right now, is today. Thank you.